She and Tristan tied the knot 3 years ago. When Tristan crossed paths with his future spouse, he was going through a rough patch. A deep sorrow had befallen his family. Overwhelmed by a wave of emotions, Tristan sought solace in the guidance of a psychologist suggested to him by his comrades. It turned out that the psychologist was none other than his future wife. From the outset of their sessions, Tristan knew it wouldn't last long. He was enamored with her. Almost immediately, he suggested putting an end to their professional relationship and asked her out for a date. And so they began their romantic journey. One blissful day, Tristan decided to finish up work early to share a meal with his wife. Upon arriving home, he found her busy cooking in the kitchen. Approaching her, he embraced and kissed her tenderly while she continued attending to the stove. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Peyton hurried to answer it, but was halted by her husband's request. "I'll take care of it, love. No need for you to be distracted." Opening the door, Tristan was met by a young chap in his 20s, sporting a neatly pressed shirt and clutching a sizable bouquet of flowers. Initially, the young man sported a radiant smile, but as soon as he saw Tristan standing before him, the grin gradually faded from his face. The guy appeared bewildered for a few moments before finally managing to squeak out a few words. He introduced himself as a courier, handed Tristan the flowers, disclosed they were meant for Peyton, and promptly made his way down the stairs. Tristan found himself equally perplexed by the young man's confused actions. He didn't even make an effort to have Tristan sign acknowledging receipt of the bouquet. With mixed emotions, Tristan approached his wife and presented her with the flowers, uttering, "Here, a courier dropped these off for you." A courier? Peyton marveled, searching for any accompanying note nestled within the bouquet. "Some young lad I don't know. Didn't even ask me to sign anything. Just dashed off," her husband replied. In that moment, a hint of realization flashed across Peyton's face, as if she had deciphered the sender's identity. "I believe it was a client of mine who sent them. He's extremely appreciative of the progress we've made," she declared, her smile shining through. "Let's not keep dinner waiting." A few weeks had passed since that peculiar incident. On a day when the husband had some time off, he made a spontaneous decision to drop by his wife's workplace and have lunch together. He entered the room where his wife's office was situated, along with several other rooms where professionals were conducting appointments. The receptionist informed him that his wife was still in a counseling session and he would have to wait. After about 15 minutes, his wife's office door swung open. To his astonishment, a young man emerged from within and swiftly made his way towards the exit. Tristan was taken aback when he recognized the same guy who had recently delivered flowers to their home for Peyton. The young man cast a discontented glance at Tristan and hastily left the room. In sheer surprise, Tristan even rose from his chair. It was at that moment that Peyton herself stepped out of the office and, upon seeing her husband, greeted him with a cheerful wave. "It seems we need to have a chat," the husband remarked, as he steered his wife away from the prying administrator. "That guy who just left, is he one of your patients?" he inquired. "Kai? Yes, I've been counseling him for 6 months now." "Why do you ask?" the spouse responded. "Well, it turns out that this very chap wasn't just the delivery guy who brought the flowers before. Are you keeping something from me, Peyton?" the husband hissed. The wife fell silent for a moment. "No, I did mention back then that he was a grateful customer. But I didn't know he had personally delivered the bouquet himself. He's extremely shy. I suppose he decided to pose as a courier in front of you," she explained, preempting her husband's queries. Tristan hesitated. His wife had never divulged information about her clients to anyone, so he remained clueless about who visited her. The explanation seemed plausible, yet something about the situation still perplexed him. How did this young man know their home address? Peyton interrupted his thoughts, already offering him a selection of cafes where they could dine for lunch. A month later, the wife found herself swamped with work, her clientele burgeoning by the day. Yet, her demeanor took on a peculiar change. Generally, if she had fewer consultations in a day, she would return home exhausted. However, this time around, her behavior turned oddly childish. Her availability for her husband dwindled to nearly none. In response to his complaints, she insisted that turning away those in need was not an option. The tension in her husband escalated daily. He grew disheartened with her constant absence and her diminishing attention towards him, eventually harboring resentment toward her job. One evening, she failed to return home at her usual hour, prompting her husband, Tristan, to give her a ring. Initially, she didn't answer. Tristan wasn't taken aback since her phone was often on silent. Traditionally, she would return the call within 10 minutes. This time, he received a text instead, caught up in an urgent consultation, will be home late. Given the lateness of the hour, Tristan decided it was safer to drive over and pick Peyton up himself, rather than letting her travel alone in the dark. Upon arrival, he noticed hers was the only office still illuminated. The building was otherwise deserted. What sort of urgent consultation could this be? He mused. The reception was unattended, and the door to Peyton's office was shut. Silently, he tiptoed to the door and listened. Typically, voices of Peyton or a client would be audible, but this time there was only silence. His curiosity piqued. He gently pushed the door open, and the scene that unfolded before him left no room for excuses. There they were, his wife, and a remarkably younger man, in a compromising embrace atop her desk. What he witnessed was unequivocal, rendering any explanation futile. Tristan's subsequent actions may seem unusual, but he clearly imagined how he would act. Anticipating the growing confrontation, he quickly took out his smartphone and took a picture of what his wife had organized at her workplace. Without hesitation, he decisively pushed her negligent lover aside and told his wife never to return home again. Tristan left the room, slamming the door behind him. The betrayed husband took precaution to ensure that everyone within his wife's professional sphere became aware of this sordid predicament. As a result of this sheer betrayal, Peyton's license as a psychologist was duly revoked, for her behavior proved unworthy of her esteemed profession. Now compelled to vacate the comfort of her husband's abode, she sought refuge with a companion, grappling with the looming question of how to navigate the forbiddance of her psychology practice, coupled with a glaring absence of alternative work experience and education. She found herself unsure of where to turn. One may assume that Peyton, being a psychologist herself, possessed a profound comprehension of the intricate workings of the human psyche. Yet, she found herself unable to fathom her own actions and predict the onset of such a harrowing conflict. Alas, such instances occur with alarming regularity. A cobbler deprived of his own footwear,